Thank you.
One
Thank you,
second,
Sridevi.
Anushriya, just 1 second before you start.
Yeah.
Okay, have you started the recording? Okay, we are
Yes,
recording.
ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Thank
Yes.
you. Sorry about that, Anushriya. Go ahead, please.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out on a Saturday afternoon from your weekend schedule and joining us for today's Women in Big Data Saraswati program launch. My name is Dr. Anushwa Ghosh, and I am an operations research specialist, basically data scientist at Thousand Trick Labs in Bengaluru, a leading management consulting group. Today, we are officially launching a Saraswati program. A detailed introduction will be provided by my fellow members. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please type it in the Q&A chat. I will, of course, bring them up during the Q&A section at the end. Okay, so now without further ado, we will turn the time over to Samiksha. A little introduction about Samiksha. So Dr. Samiksha Shukla, Associate Professor and Head, Data Science Department of Christ University, Pune, Lavasa campus. Her research interest includes computational security, artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, and big data. She is a certified AWS educator. She has presented and published several research papers in reputed journals and conferences. She has 16 years of academic and research experience. She is serving as a reviewer of different journals like IJSA, IEEE, and ACM conferences. She is an experienced and focused teacher who is committed to promoting the education and well-being of students. She is passionate about innovation and good practices in teaching. She has constantly engaged in continuous learning to broaden her knowledge and experience. Her core expertise lies in computational security, artificial intelligence, and healthcare-related projects. She is skilled at adopting a pragmatic approach in improving on solutions and resolving complex research problems. She possesses an integrated set of competencies that encompass areas related to teaching, mentoring, strategic management, and establishing center of excellence via industry tie-ups. She has a track record of driving unprecedented research and development projects with international collaboration and has been instrumental in organizing various national and international events. So over to you, Samiksha.
Thank you, Dr. Anusuya. So let me start with a brief introduction to WIBD. So we are here for Saraswati program launch. Before that, let me introduce our WIBD team and what we do at WIBD India Council. So WIBD is a non-profit organization where we are mainly concerned about the gap. So in order to reduce the skill gap for women, we are having various programs. And let me go to WIBD mission and history. So WIBD is Women in Big Data. It is a global volunteer-driven organization. Its mission is to cultivate tangible opportunities for women and unlock potential through accessible training for the women, and it acts as a catalyst through leadership promotions and empower equality among gender. So initially it was started in 2015 July by 15 people from various companies. Currently we have around 20,000 plus members in 6 continents and 40 chapters globally, and it is community first approach. So in Women in Big Data, our vision is a future in which gender and resource don't limit equitable participation in big data influence careers. Yes, we concentrate on 3 C's for our values: connect, cultivate, and champion. So this is the global organization structure for Women in Big Data. We have 7 executive committee members. We have 6 continents and we have different chapters and directors. So for India, we have co-directors, Ekta Madam and Soumya Madam are co-director for India chapter. And then in that we have various institute member for academic tie-ups, and we have few global company tie-ups. So you can see on screen that WIBD has a huge list of companies with whom we have tied up. For India chapter, we have two co-directors, as I was telling. So Dr. Ekta Mehul and Ms. Soumya Moni. These are two co-directors for Women in Big Data India chapter, supported by Executive Council members. So we have very dynamic personalities in our Women in Big Data Executive Council members. So there is a huge potential, data potential in India. And if I talk about this, if according to LinkedIn survey, 12 to 15% of women pursue data science related career or academia. So nowadays, data science is at hype. And if you see the data traffic, so due to pandemic, if you would have observed that data traffic and the pool which we have in data, it is increasing exponentially. And so we need to have trained professionals who can definitely contribute to it. So that is what Women in Big Data is trying to do. Yes, WIBD, India structure and programs. So grow the community of women in data and allied field. This is what we are trying to do, and create success story across all the programs. So let me introduce various programs which we have in coming slide, and then we'll be able to relate to it. In this WIBD India structure, we have co-directors. So as I told you, we have two leading co-directors. They are custodians of WIBD India. They plan the strategy and roadmap to take all the program forward. They select EC members for supporting the various chapters which we have and other activities which we are running through various programs. We have a monthly council meeting, and then we have tie-up with the industry and government bodies for grants and some programs which we are offering for student communities. Yes, we get some sponsorship and partners through our industry collaboration. We have executive council members. So executive council members, as I already told you, there are few leading people from various industry and academia who are part of our executive council member. They design and develop the programs. They help us in getting sponsorship and partners. Participate, they are contributor of our monthly council meeting. They help us to organize event, seminar, industry and academia platform exchange. And they help us to promote our program at regional level. We have various team members belonging to various partnership which we have with academia and industry. So in order to execute program at national level, we tie up with these team members for smooth conduction of the program. In order to communicate with various chapter, our team members help us, and reporting the progress to the leadership and the council, our team member collaborate with us. Next, I would like to talk about what are the programs which we have with the WIBD India chapter. So WIBD India Foundation, we have various programs which are offered to our stakeholders. So first program which is planned by WIBD India chapter is Vidya program. So it is for knowledge dissemination to bridge the divide between industry and academia. So for that, we plan lecture, panel discussion, webinar, awareness programs, and counseling sessions. We have today Saraswati program launch. So Saraswati program is industry-driven curriculum and certificate program design and development. And this is developed by our EC members. In this, we have a data science program in which we'll get certificate program. We have short-term courses. We have diploma in tie-up with universities, and we have our council member participating in board of studies of various university with whom we have tied up for certificate course and the diploma programs. The another program which we focus on is Shakti program. It is targeted for restarting career or education for the women. So this program is for restarting the career, meeting the special needs and flexibility, promoting companies, providing some positions. It is for outreach to women looking for to restart their career and education, and counseling for women. We have Gayatri program. So Gayatri program is to develop leaders in data science and allied field. So in this, we bring industries on board, and we get the mentor from industry, and they mentor the mentees who are really willing to get skill in the field of data science. We get coach from the industry, and we incubate a startup founded by women under Gayatri program. And the last program, which is with the WIBD India Foundation, is Lakshmi program. It is internship and full-time employment opportunity program for the WIBD chapters who are the member of the WIBD Foundation. So in this we gather a requirement from the company. We collaborate for job fair and the event. We help these chapters for campus placement and internship, and we collect data of job seekers, and we help them in searching and shortlisting and screening for their job positions. We organize interviews, and so once they are through, we definitely publish success stories so that others will get motivated, and they also try to come in and develop themselves with the help of all these programs which are offered by WIBD India Foundation. So that's it. I wanted to introduce you about WIBD. I think WIBD Academia and industry partner Soumya Madam will be reflecting upon. Thank you. Sridevi ma'am, over to you.
Yeah. So thank you, Samiksha. It was a wonderful introduction. We will move to the next part of our introduction to Saraswati program. I would like to hand over to it Sridevi. Sridevi has 17 plus years of IT experience and is a passionate developer and problem solver. She is a certified AWS and Spark professional focusing on providing big data and analytics solutions for customers. She is an active co-organizer of the AWS user group in Chennai and helps host and deliver AWS community days, meetups, and technical sessions to the developer community. She is the first AWS Data Hero of India and was selected as one of the AWS reInvent Community Leader Diversity Grant recipients in 2019. So over to you, Sridevi.
Thank you, Anusya. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Samiksha, for the introduction. So let me just share my screen. I'll take another 5 minutes to talk about Saraswati program in specific. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Dr. Samiksha gave a high-level overview of all the programs that we organize as part of WIBD itself. So I just wanted to talk in specific to Saraswati program. So the objective of the Saraswati program is to design and develop certificate program based on the industry-driven curriculum. Typically, right, there is always a gap between what we study in college curriculum versus what is required by the industry, because the technology is growing very fast, and there are a lot of changes and a lot of new things that is getting invented every day. So there is always a gap. So the whole purpose of Vidya and Saraswati is to bridge the gap and get the students and people who are looking for job, industry ready. So the whole purpose of Saraswati is to develop such programs that would benefit both students and people who are trying to start their career or switch from one domain to another domain. So from the course perspective itself, the Saraswati program will be a bit long-term courses. It could span from few weeks to few months. So it could go up to 6 months, starting 3 weeks. So we have different programs and there could be multiple courses run in parallel. So based on your needs, based on your interest, you'll be able to pick and choose different courses that will help you grow yourself into your professional career. And from an audience perspective, we are targeting for women entrepreneurs, interns, freshers, and job aspirants who are looking for changing their career path from one domain to another domain. These courses does not have a defined eligibility. So there could be different eligibility for different courses. So maybe whenever you enroll into one of the courses, just check your eligibility, and then based on that, you can start your courses from there. I think this was covered by Dr. Sabiksha already, but I'll just go through it once more, just for reiterating it. So what are the programs you are going to cover under Saraswati? So it would be data science program for certificates. There could be short-term courses, and there could be diploma courses with university. And we'll also be collaborating with NSDC for certification. And one of that is NASSCOM, which Anjana will be talking about that right after this. And then we'll also be participating in board of studies of various universities to understand the curriculum. And we'll also be launching some vocational courses. So these are the plans. So we are starting with few of them now, and we'll be gradually adding all of the other courses as well to our list. Okay, so what is the process of the Saraswati program itself? So how do we define the courses? How do we bring that to the table? How do we get the courses to the students, right? So this is a process that is followed. So the input for this entire process is the industry requirement analysis, identifying the suitable courses, identifying the trainees, trainers, and the management. So these are the inputs. And there is a 7-step process that is being followed, where the first step is check the industry requirements. So what is the current need of the market? So what is required? So as Samiksha was saying, right? So data has become very hot now, because there is so much of mobile devices, so much of data being generated every day. So I think the industry requirements changes every day, right? So we have to understand the industry requirements and review the curriculum of the university. So the university curriculum may be a bit outdated and may not be latest. So just review the curriculum of the university, identify the gaps, and make the board of studies group. So form a group and suggest changes in curriculum. So our college curriculum may not be changed immediately. So what we are trying to do is, right, so suggest changes in curriculum and get it reviewed by the universities or other corporate companies as required, and then share it with the university, and the courses would be conducted as part of main program or separate programs. And what is the desired output? So we want industry ready candidates who can be deployed into the projects directly. Okay, so this is a very simple process that we are targeting for the Saraswati program. Identify and bridge the gap so that we get a lot more industry ready candidates who can be deployed right away into the projects.
Great.
Yeah. So from a costing perspective, from the mode of delivery perspective, we are looking at 2 modes. So there will be a free course as well as paid courses. The free courses are self-paced training, and you'll be getting certification when you complete the courses. We are also planning to launch some of the paid courses where we would be collecting some nominal fee, and the courses would be deadline based training. So there will be plans. So there could be weekly plans or monthly plans, and there could be projects, and there would be mentors who would be available to guide and clarify the questions. The paid courses will have this additional support of mentoring, and you'll be getting the certification. So it is up to the individuals to decide and choose the courses that you want to do, but it is not mandatory that you have to take paid courses. Okay, so just feel free to choose courses, whatever is required, and go ahead and do the courses. And these are the two modes that we are going to operate right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So what is in it for you, right? So as a student or as a person who is going to start my job, so what is in it for me? This program is a structured program. So there is a lot of effort that is going in to identify what is required, right? Maybe as a student or as an individual, you may not know what is the industry need at this point of time. So there is a group of experts who are trying to do that research, and they are going to give the program which is going to be useful to everybody, right? So this is a structured program that is going to be accredited by various universities or corporates themselves. And the certificate that you're going to get is from authorized training providers or universities. So that will also have its own value. And as part of other programs within WebD itself, we will be identifying and providing placement opportunities for successful candidates. So to summarize that, right, this is a very cost-effective training program, and you'll have the opportunity to get mentored by industry experts and others, who are part of WebD as well as from external teams. Okay. So this, I would request all of you to make use of this program so that you get yourself trained and ready for your next assignment as and when you're done with your college studies. Yeah, so what have we done so far? So we have already did a lot of programs through Vidya. So there are a lot of sessions, workshops, and technical sessions, stories. We did a lot of sessions for all the students, and I think most of you would have been part of those sessions as well. So that was all short-term programs, right? So it would be 2 hours, 1 day programs. And with those sessions, we have right now got 500 plus LinkedIn followers, and for the NASSCOM curriculum that we are launching today, we have got 800 plus registrations. So we are looking forward to a lot more registration, and we want to change the life of a lot more students to get them placed in a better companies and get them a better career going forward. So looking forward for a lot more participation from all of you, and thank you. Over to you, Anjana.
Yeah. So an amazing elaboration, I must say, Sridevi. Thank you so much. An excellent opportunity for all the participants from Women in Big Data group, right? So thank you, Sridevi, for an amazing description. Now I would like to invite Anjana for briefing about NASSCOM programs. So before that, I want to say a few lines about Anjana and her background. She is the lead strategy and customer success employee of Future Skills Prime. She has 12 plus years of industry experience in strategy, sales, and has worked on Women in Tech and STEM UK. So thank you, Anjana, for coming here and participating. Thank you so much. Over to you, Anjana.
Thank you so much, Anusriya, for this introduction. And it's nice to see all of you here on a Saturday evening. And that really shows that, all of you are looking for a bright future, because first step is investment into knowing what you want to do in the next step. So, so before I go to the platform, it's important to give you a little brief background of what are we talking about. And we are talking about a platform where Women in Big Data has tied up, and it's called Future Skills Prime. So Future Skills Prime is an initiative by Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India, and NASSCOM. And the idea is to give you a medium to skill, upskill, reskill in emerging technology. So the focus remain for us is also emerging technology. And there is a reason why we have, come up with certain technologies, and why only emerging technologies, because as per the BCG report, research that they've done, the current skill gap in the market is around 10 times when it comes to the, the demand on these skills for jobs and the availability in the market. The supply and the demand gap is around 10 times, which is expected to become 20 times by 2023 and 2024. So definitely there will be abundant of, you know, opportunities, but there wouldn't be enough skilled people in the market. And our idea through this program is to extend this platform to all of these individuals who are here and all the people who are also a part of the greater number who have registered with us, and make sure they get skilled and they have, you know, they're prepared for these opportunities which are going to be lined up for them in the future. The program is pretty simple, and I think all of you will be guided by, you know, the team themselves. So the program goes from very smooth pathway level to the courses to the deep skill level. The idea here is that even if you are at a very beginner level, which I don't think most of the crowd here would be, but then if supposedly there could be variance in certain technologies, you could be very good at one and you couldn't be very good at other, you know. So if you're working in big data and you don't know what is cyber security and, you know, how do you do it, then perhaps you can learn a little bit in the beginner level there. So the content flow is something I will just show here, because the platform must be overwhelming for anybody who comes for the first time. So the 10 technologies we are talking about are here. That is AI, big data, blockchain, cloud computing, cyber, IoT, web mobile development, RPA, AR, VR, and 3D printing and modeling. So these are the technology which are going to fetch a maximum amount of jobs. And why are we doing this initiative is because we want to make sure India becomes a talent hub for the world. And in the future, we have organizations coming to us, you know, and setting up their base here and looking for people, and they are available in our job market. So like I said, we begin on the Future Skills Prime platform. We start with a very awareness level content. We can take a intermediate like a foundation, then we can go to a deep skill, and you can earn a certificate on an assessment. All this while I think you will be guided by the team in you know, women in big data, and they will be the mentors and guides for you to navigate through this path and, you know, make sure you achieve the accomplishment by the end of it. Now let me share the platform with you and show you what are we talking about. And I'm sure a lot of you already have got mails from us and, you know, already have a registration done on our platform, and that would help you, you know, get to the platform and see for yourself. So just give me a moment. Let me showcase my screen.
Sure.
So this is what happens when you have a lot of windows open.
Right.
You're just looking for windows. So yeah, so here we are. When you land up, you will be landing up here on the home page. Where are we? Where is Women in Big Data? It is here. We go to groups. If you're not able to see, you can, you know, click on other public groups. You will be able to see Women in Big Data. Go to Women in Big Data. Right now, there are some selected highlighted courses already picked up by the team. Reason is simple. They are foundation courses. They are free courses. Also, they are courses relevant to what you are going to be learning. So there are machine learning and AI course, and AI foundation course, and a big data foundation course, if you look at it. All of you can go and enroll into it right now. So if you have already you know, received a registration, then you have your email address which you've shared with the team. You can use that as a sign up, and use welcome@123 as a password, and do it right away. You know, so I am here, and I would like to, you know, I know all of you are on mute, but I would still like to take any questions right now with the audience we have got here.
Right.
So I'm just assuming the people who are here have already shared their email addresses, and they have.
There is one question, Anjana. So, are there timelines to register for some courses? The Skilla, for example, says free till September 20, kind of.
Correct. So you're absolutely right. This is a sign. This is the timeline for registration. However, once you register, even if you register on 29th of September, or let's say even on 30th of September,
Yeah.
then the course duration will give you another 6 months to complete the course, because it's a
Okay.
self-paced course.
Okay.
But yes, because this crowd is already registered with us, I would really appreciate if you're interested in these courses, register right now. Why are you wasting your time? And that's number one. Number two, for the benefit of this audience, I will like to give you the good news today, which may go to the other people later, that by September 4th, we will have a direct benefit transfer activated on the platform. And soon, any course which you see is paid will have the DBT feature activated. So that in turns mean that you will receive a subsidy once you obviously complete and pass. So, you'll only, so don't come to me and say that I attempted and, then I didn't get the subsidy. Please pass it and then think about it. But then the fact of the matter remains that a wonderful team here to guide you, and they will ensure that you are completing it. And that will also ensure somewhere that you're passing the assessments, and then you get that subsidy. Because at the end of the day, these courses will ensure that you are going and moving towards a career path which you have chosen.
Right.
So everybody with me?
Yes.
Now,
Anjana, this is Soumya here. I just wanted to ask one question in terms of our, the curriculum partners. And we see Digital Vidya, we see Leaps, we see Skill Up. So anything you want to share with the audience in terms of, what their credentials are and how they've been vetted and how this curriculum has been built, so that our
Absolutely.
learners can also get to know a little bit about the companies who have invested in this platform in curriculum development.
Sure. Thank you, Soumya, for asking that. So yeah, so first I thought I'll show everybody the group. Let me go back to home and give you the entire process we have at the back end. So for us, because we are a government-backed platform, we can't have anything and everything on our platform. So we have a very thorough content and OEM process. So any content that comes to our platform goes through a very thorough vetting. Like, Sridevi was talking about competency mapping when it comes to industry and alignment with the academia, right? So that's something we do as a Sector Skill Council also, because we are Sector Skill Council for IT, ITES. So what we do is, I will just show you one of the scores, which is also there in your group, Analytica, machine learning, and, so what we traditionally do is we go and we go to 30 industry partner, vet our content of anything. It could be Analytica. Analytica could have provided X content to us. We got it vetted we got a sign ahead of 30, industry experts on it from different companies. Then we go to the NSDC, which is National Skill, Directory. And they are the one, NSDA and NSDC, they are the signing authorities when it comes to the alignment of content. So then they say, okay, this is aligned. We say, okay, the industry is already signed and said, okay, good, this content is aligned to what we are doing currently. We are working on these areas, and they have now NSDC says, okay, good, it can become a NOS. Once they go ahead, then we say it is aligned to NOSes. When we say they are aligned to NOSes mean National Occupancy Standards. So that means whatever you're learning has an occupancy standard, right? So there is a standard for it. There's a body which, by the way, defines the standard. And if I show you these standards, what do they mean? So I am just showing you these. So basically, if you look at these numbers, these are the standard numbers, right? So every job today, traditionally, if you look at the jobs had a JD, a job description, right? And they were very simple, by the way, in a legacy kind of role, and they were definable. And then people used to define it in a qualification pack and say, you need to have X things to be qualified for an X job. But with the newer technologies like AI or big data, actually everybody has their own definition. So if you go to one company, they might call one person data analyst. If you go to another company, they might call that guy another, might call him something else. Now, how do you as a student, or how do you as an individual know what is that you want to pursue? Because for you, it is important to know there is a standard. And that is why jobs are no more defined by QP, they are defined by skills. So what are we saying? That if you have 1, 2, 3 skills, then maybe you're qualified for X job. And if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 skills, maybe you're qualified for Y job, right? And that definition is done by National Occupancy Standard. Every skill has a number. So if you know import database has a number, it could mean any kind of database, right? At the end of the day, whether you're doing it in a big data, you're doing it in AI, you're doing it in, whatever is it could be for any purpose. But the skill is importing database, simple. And if you know that database importing thing, then the skill has a number, and the number, and similarly anything which is making you learn will have an aligned NOS. And then it will get so supposedly you want to become today a data scientist, then you know how many skills you need to have. If you want to become a research intelligence analyst, you will know how many skills do you want to have. So basically, this is to just simplify for a learner what is that they want to pursue. So likewise, we work on any course, and the course which is picked by WID, I'll just show this fundamental of data analytics. For example, for us, if you get into the course, right, and you go to the course first page, let's say the beginner page, it clearly defines what are the skills you are going to be learning: pre-processed data and exploratory data analysis. So there are 2 skills that you're going to be learning from this particular content. So that is the amount of work we put in any content which is NOS aligned or NSQF aligned. And the real purpose is that these are also academia, or these are government approved. So government has put a stamp, and AICT has also passed a circular pan India, that any college today can adopt this particular course, just straight away pick it up off the shelf and take it as an elective in their final semester. And you will get the credit marks for that particular subject, because it's a blend of both practical and theory. So that is about how content comes. By the way, no content partner is selected by us. So I know we do all of this work on the content once it comes to us. That's something I've explained. But how are these content partners selected? So there is another agency, ENY, which has been appointed by us to help us in terms of selecting the content partner. So we don't select the content partner because we want to be very neutral, and we don't want to be, we don't want to have any kind of biases. And that's why we have a third party to do that role. Right. I do see some chats. I'm not sure if they are for me.
Yes. One question from Rajani. So she is asking, for a person who has a mathematics background, which course do you recommend to begin with?
So so I think the people here sitting in this panel are much more experienced when it comes to which course to pick up if you have mathematics background. So I wouldn't like to intervene in that area. By the way, I think all these, mathematics, and it can be applied in definitely in this one, regression and, machine learning one, because it's regression and linear and, so I am sure, but the advisory here is much more experienced in terms of advising with the course. I would leave it up to them. You can always read the content and analyze where do you fall, because by the way, these people may think that AI involves a lot of coding, but it doesn't. Python is a reasonable language and it can be learned. Right. Because I've done Python. I don't have a background of technology, coding and all that, but it's easy. It's not very difficult, but it's quite logical language. So that's number one. Now, number two, I think there's another person who asked me, I'm an Indian citizen, but living in UAE, by the way, yes. So that's a disclaimer. This is a geo-fence site. And you can't access this from outside India. and also you can't access it if you're not an Indian. So that just yeah, that just limits your possibilities. But yes, if you're living in India, you're an Indian, you're also eligible for subsidy, by the way. So
thank you, Anjana. So Rajini, just on that question, we'll get back to you. So we have that question on our list of answers to be done. So yeah, we'll get back to you on that. Thank you, Anjana.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, Anjana, for such a lovely session. Now we will have a round table for discussion hosted by Sridevi. So Sridevi, over to you, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Anjana. That was a great session. Actually, I had the opportunity to just enroll myself into one of the course, and it is exhaustive. It is a huge list of session content. So though I'm talking about big data analytics everywhere, I see a lot of things new to me there as well. So it was very good. It is a good course content. Yeah, thank you. And I recommend all of you to just start your learning journey right from today, and you'll definitely have a great learning experience. Thank you. And yeah, very good evening, friends. So we'll move on to the next segment. So here, right, so we are going to hear from some of our experts on how to build a successful career in analytics. Okay, so this is definitely a discussion that I wanted to host and hear from all the experts around me who are in the system for more than 10, 15, and 20 years. And their experiences are definitely going to enlighten us with a lot more insights. Okay, so let me introduce our panelist. So we have Dr. Bindu Narayan. She is a data science professional with 20 plus years of experience. Her expertise lies in advanced analytics and machine learning, including customer and marketing analytics, predictive modeling, and IoT analytics. She is a speaker at public forums and has delivered lectures at some of the leading institutes and universities in India. She serves in the board of studies of few of the universities in India. Welcome, Bindu. Yeah. Looking forward to hear a lot from you. Yeah, so our next expert is Meenakshi Arun. She has 20 plus years of experience in software development, education, and analytics. She is currently serving as Director of Strategy Transformation in Analytics for Azure Cloud Supply Chain India, COE at Microsoft. She has deep technology and analytics expertise in the area of improving customer experience. In her role, she is also part of WebD India. She is responsible for Shakti, the program for women looking to restart their career or education via outreach, networking events, and partnership with government and academia. Welcome, Meenakshi.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, next we have is Richa. So Richa is an analytics leader with more than 12 years of industry experience and has worked in multiple domains like BFSI, CPG, and supply chain. Currently, she leads Tredence in customer delivery team and has been instrumental in leading data science specific initiatives. As a delivery manager, Richa has worked on few collaborative strategies to enable clients to obtain short-term results and develop long-term sustainability strategies. She believes that corporate have now realized that women can take tough assignments and build the culture of an organization. I too believe in that, Richa. Welcome. Very, very nice to have you here. Thank you. By the way, my name is Sridevi. I hope I have given my introduction and Anusia also did. So I'll be moderating the session today.
Great. Yes.
Thank you. So can we get started? So yeah, so I'll start with my first very basic question to Bindu. So we'll start with Bindu. I just want to get everybody on the same page with respect to analytics itself, right? So what is analytics and why are we talking about analytics now? So let me hear from Bindu.
Thank you, Sridevi, for shooting the first question to me. So there is this definition given by Informs, which is the Institute of Operations Research and Management Sciences, which I like the best. It says, analytics is defined as a scientific process of transforming data into insights for making better decisions. So in business, every company, they have to make decisions daily or every minute by minute. And there are different ways in which you can make decisions. It can be gut-based, it can be based on traditions, or it can be based on the data. So the one that is a decision that is made based on data, I would say, is the most scientific way of decision-making process. So the process of analyzing data to arrive at better business decisions, in my opinion, is what analytics is all about.
Thank you, Bindu. Thank you for that. And Meenakshi, do you want to share your thoughts on that? Yeah.
Sure. So I just want to build on what Bindu shared. I'll focus on why we need analytics, right? I think today there's such increased complexity of doing business. This is something every single organization faces. And then, thanks to all the different media where we produce data, data has also exploded. So navigating all these multiple factors that you need to, achieve a business objective, it is impossible without access to the quality data and insights that you need, which is a must, at every single level of the organization, whether you're trying to make a strategic decision or whether it is just to guide your operational activities. It's no longer a choice to not use data, right? Because there is so much complexity. So the only way to take those best informed decisions and progress towards a business objective is when you couple that a strong understanding of the business problem along with very high quality analytics. That would be my perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Meenakshi. So Richard, do you have any thoughts on this? Maybe your perspective of what is analytics and why analytics?
Sure, I would completely agree on Dr. Bindu and Meenakshi's thought process. How they have articulated this was really beautiful. So lately we are hearing a lot about digital transformation, right? Lot of companies are moving towards digital transformation, and with this COVID breakout, it has become more and more important. So for that, analytics has become core to it. So now whether they are deploying data lakes, that means they are collecting the data from all their sources, legacy systems they have, SAP, ERP, CRM systems. So collecting all this data, creating into a data lake, generating BI reports, or using some statistical or machine learning models. Analytics basically enable business to take those fact-based decisions. And now, as Bindu also mentioned, that it has enabled to moving away from the gut-based or assumption-based. Now, I come from financial services background. There, most of the decision used to be on assumptions. Okay, that X% would come because it has been coming, right? But now the industry has moved toward more looking at the data and then deriving that decision making. So yeah, that's how I believe analytics is.
Thank you, Risha. So yeah, my next question is about the role. So I'm going to ask this to Meenakshi first. So analytics, right? It's a diverse field. We have too many roles and opportunities. But when we hear the word analytics, I think the two concepts that come to our mind are ML and AI. And we don't think about the other roles, right? So not everybody is aware of the other roles that is used in the industry. So what could be the typical roles in the analytical world? And what are the typical tasks that would be done by the different roles that we have?
Sure. So, taking a step back to, as a career, how do you ensure you're successful at analytics, and how is an organization going to be successful with analytics? I think you need to, ensure that any analytical solution that you build should be operationalized, right? By that, I mean, it is no longer, it's not just for research. It is not just a proof of concept. It is something that can be, blended into daily activities of the business. Now, to make that happen, there are several roles, and among other things, this value chain includes having program managers, product managers. There are roles like business analysts, data analysts, and these are roles in that whole continuum that have very, very solid grounding in functional and the domain expertise. Okay, so these are the people who can take a business problem, they can help businesses to articulate the problem they have better, and then translate that into various hypotheses or a solution design, a system design, whatever it is that will help the actual decision making later in the process. So this is a group that also has to take accountability to deliver those solutions, ensure business needs are met. So that is a role that has to work very closely with, what we traditionally associate with analytics, which is the data science, data engineering, the more technical roles, right? The architects. So ultimately, you need this entire group of people to come together, work very effectively with the business if you want to see true ROI of analytics in any business. So that's one thing I wanted to add, and Bindu and Richa could comment further.
Yeah, so maybe Bindu will hear from you. So yeah, Meenakshi covered data science side of things, so maybe you can give your perspective.
Sure. So let me speak about the data science side of things, because that's what my background is. So you have a data scientist, and you also nowadays hear this role of ML engineer. So a data scientist is typically somebody who knows how to build ML algorithms, build statistical models, and deliver on that. And that could be a sales forecasting, a customer segmentation, a recommendation engine, any one of those. But gone are the days. And in fact, when I started my career, we just had to put it in a PPT and deliver it to a client. Those days are gone. And that's what Meenakshi was also referring to. Now it's all about operationalization. So now you need people who will actually put this in real-time deployment. So an ML engineer role is that. Whereas an ML engineer needs to know a little bit of data science or AI ML, but that role is a little more skewed towards data engineering than data scientist. These are the two main roles you will find in the area of data scientist. You will also hear about big data analyst, but that flavor is slightly different. It's really not data scientist, because I thought I'll mention it, but that's more a data engineering. Yeah, so maybe I think we'll hear from Richa.
Yeah, yes, Richa.
Yeah. So this is a very good question. Okay, I do a lot of counseling on these roles to the corporates, and I came across people who leave their current jobs to join analytics industry, and what they know about analytics industry is that it is data science. Okay, so I always say that analytics is not just data science; it's a lot beyond it. So a person should always choose the path in analytics depending on if they are already experienced, depending on their current profile as well as their education. So as Bindu also mentioned about some roles, and Meenakshi mentioned about some roles, analytics is only about translating data into insight that is consumable. Now, if you're an MBA, you rather go for a business analyst kind of path where you will be eventually generating insights. You would not be a hardcore data engineering person or a data science person, but you would rather get the requirement, understand the requirement, translate into a solution approach. And this path would lead you to, it will lead you to become a program manager eventually, who would manage the whole program or large scale projects that are going on in the system. Now, other roles are if you have a strong background about SQL, okay? If you have learned SQL in the past, then you can go on creating queries and generate BI reports. That could also be one of the path a BA could also take to become a BI developers. Data science is also a field, but there you would require to know a lot of algorithms, to know a lot of machine learning concept. Now, with data science, and Meenakshi's talked about that, it is also important that how we can operationalize it, right? So earlier we realized that when analytics was growing, there used to be POCs, but now we are making solutions that can actually go to production and people can start making decisions by consuming it. So we need a lot of ML engineers who can create these data pipelines to source data from the data lakes that they have. So one of this field is also growing. And the next is, after all this, a lot of, you would also hear about ML ops, right? So ML ops is basically operationalize deploy all your solution, or even giving you the platform to just drag and drop it and create your models yourself. So these are a few areas that, roles that people can get into.
Oh, thank you, Richa. Thank you. I think it is a very good response from all three of you consolidated together, right? So there is a range of job that you'll have based on your skill sets or based on what you want to pursue. It's not always ML or AI. You can also have a lot of data engineering job, data science job, ML job, ops job. So there are a lot of different roles and BAs as well, right? So a lot of different roles that you can do as when you take analytics as your career. Thank you for that. And yeah, if there are any questions from the team, please feel free to type it in the chat and we'll try to get the response by end of the session. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So yeah, right now with the data growing in multifolds, we see a lot of opportunities in analytics. What do you think is the future of analytics, and how should we plan to progress our career with as we go, right? So what is the future of analytics itself? So what should we be prepared for? So Meenakshi or Bindu?
Yeah, from what I am seeing on the field, this is what I think. Data science has existed as a niche area, or it has existed pretty much in isolation for the last couple of decades, I would say. But we cannot afford to remain like that in the future days to come. It is already emerging with big data. That's why we heard a lot about big data analytics, including Sridevi, who's a big data analytics professional. It's already merged with big data. It's slowly merging with IoT, Internet of Things, blockchain technology. These are all areas which developed outside analytics, but slowly it's merging. And I think very soon in the future, this has to merge even with something like quantum computing. So while when we were talking about data science, now a data scientist also has to be a little bit of a data engineer to do that ML engineering. Going forward, if not a unicorn who can do everything, but an analytics professional would need to know a little bit about IoT, blockchain, quantum computing, big data. Anyway, it's part of analytics. So the person will have to know a little bit of everything, but with a very strong base in one of the analytics areas, which that can be data management, data visualization, or data science. I think this is where a role of an analytics professional is heading to. That's what I think.
Thank you, Bindu. Thank you. So Meenakshi, are you back, Meenakshi?
Yes, sorry, something happened to my Zoom. I'm back.
Yeah, thank you, Meenakshi. So maybe shall I repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So what do you think is the future of analytics? So how should we make ourselves ready for the future if we are choosing analytics as a career?
Sure. I think, big transition that is going on in analytics is, tied to some of the other modernization that we're also dealing with, right? As people move from typical legacy solutions on-prem, there's a lot of focus to move to cloud, leverage, all of those, advantages. So, along with that, there is also a huge ask for agility. People want to ensure that, connected data across business functions is available seamlessly to them. Huge focus on a lot of codeless or code-free development, as it's called, and, also self-serve. So if you put all of these together, as you said before, Sridevi, when we started, technology changes literally every year or every 6 months. So that is something where, anyone in this profession needs to sort of future-proof themselves for. But in addition to that, I would say that, you really need to understand your areas of strength and then choose a path that will take you towards, the kind of career that you desire, right? So if you love, the technical side, if you enjoy coding, programming, architecture and data engineering is the space you need to be. Anyone who is, fascinated by statistics or the predictive models, the ML/AI side of things, lots of use cases there. So that's where you want to be. And then finally, if you're someone who's more focused on design, user experience, visualization, you love storytelling, then analysis, BI analyst is a space you can start. And as I spoke earlier, as you grow in your career, as if you're someone who enjoys communicating, you're a very organized person, you can execute and define and execute a vision, then you could really think about becoming a product or a program manager. And then I think along the way, leadership is where it would finally take you, right? So if you're someone who enjoys developing people and growing people, ensuring their career aspirations are met, and definitely you should consider people management and leadership roles about 10 12 years into your career. So I think that's what people can aspire for, but it's important to take that time to understand what is it you think you would like to be, and what your core strengths are.
Yeah, thank you for that, Meenakshi. Absolutely. Yeah. So maybe we have to understand our own strengths and plan our career. Yeah, thank you for that. All right, so next is my favorite question. So this is more on your personal chart, right? So I'm going to start this question with Richa. So how did you step into analytics industry, and how exciting is the journey? So how are you enjoying this analytics?
Okay, so I was someone who always wanted to be at an intersection of computer technology and mathematics. Okay? Maths used to be my favorite subject. I used to be a full scorer throughout my school days. I'm not trying to boast it, but yeah, it was my favorite subject. And then computer came, so I got fascinated. I learned C++. Learned OOPS concept when I was 11, 12. And I ended up doing my graduation from NIFT into financial production. So when I was doing that, apparel manufacturing, I missed the computer and technology part of it. Okay. And somehow also maths, although I was doing some pricing and all those things, but not really what I wanted to do. Then I did my MBA. And after my MBA in finance, I joined an organization where I was a BA. Okay. And that time around 2011, BA was someone in software development field. He was someone who was writing BRDs. Those are business requirement docs. And I was not doing any of such sort. I was looking at data, working on Cognos BI, extracting data, translating it into some insights, and presenting it to the stakeholders. Okay, that was my job. And I was doing good. I was enjoying it. Then after 4-5 years, I thought, let me switch to a different company. I have learned enough about financial services and payments. That's when I realized, okay, I'm jobless. Okay, I don't have a job because I'm not a business analyst that people are talking about, and I don't know what I am. Okay, I was clueless how to explain. Suddenly, I don't know how it happened, but I saw a JD that talked about business intelligence. Okay, and I didn't know BI that time. You know what that business intelligence is, and I said, okay, that's what I was doing, right? And then project management, especially analytics. So that is when I realized, okay, so I wasn't into analytics all this while. So I realized around 2015. Then I grew myself. I stick to that organization where I was. I did not switch. I grew myself, learned more about this field, learned technology, started interacting with people, also started teaching and counseling. And then I made a move towards hardcore analytics into consulting, basically, to consult people, consult client on data science and solutioning. Okay, so I think for me, it is like, I'm in a field which I'm passionate about.
Oh, that's awesome, Richa. So you started with an MBA background, you're now a technologist, is it?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. So I come from a completely technical background and I prefer only technology. I don't think I can switch to your field anyways anytime. So thank you for that. That is nice story. Thank you. Yeah, Bindu, can we hear from you? Yeah.
I think like Richa, I also ended up in the field of analytics and data science because of my love for mathematics. Now, by training, I'm an engineer. I'm an electronics and communication engineer, turned MBA, turned PhD. So I did BTech MBA in a stretch, and then I worked for 7.5 years. And that's when I decided to And in the last 4 years was actually teaching. So after a couple of years in the industry, I joined academia to teach business statistics and operations research. And from there, I decided to do my PhD. And I ended up doing PhD at IIT Madras. So if you do PhD in management in any of the IITs, it's highly likely that it will be on a heavy quant side. If you do an IIM, it need not be, but IIT, you will end up doing statistics or operations research. So I ended up doing PhD in data science. And once I completed, I had the option of either going back to teaching, or that's when the analytics industry actually opened up. The GE, Genpacts of the world and all were around at that time. This is in 2007. So by the way, I'm a person who did my PhD in my mid-30s. This is not my early college days, okay? My mid-30s, I went back to school to do my PhD. So 2007 is when there was that analytic explosion in India. So as there's a famous poem by Robert Frost, which says, 2 roads diverged in the wood, and I decided to take, the one
less
that led to
traveled.
analytics. And that has made all the difference. Yes, that's my story.
That is great. So I have one common question to both of you, right? So both of you have a passion for math. So I think everybody does if you are into analytics, even I do have. But do we think mathematics is essential for getting into analytics field? Should we be an expert in mathematics? I just wanted to clear
Not necessarily, because like I think somewhere Meenakshi had explained a lot of the other roles earlier. And a lot of that really doesn't need a strong math background. But if you end up, and for example, if it's a visualization role or a BI role, you really don't need math that much. But certain other roles where, especially where there is strong coding needed, basically you need to think very logically. And mostly it's the people with left brain, right? I think the left-sided brain people are the ones who think very logically. So that is somewhere connected with math. So you need not have a strong foundation in math, but it helps. And it helps for you to not be a tool jockey. Instead of just being a Python jockey, you understand the math which is going behind the algorithm. It helps you a lot. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Meenakshi, maybe your personal story of getting into analytics itself. Yeah.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I've always enjoyed statistics right from school, and I did that in my graduation, math stats and computer science. I went on to do computer applications. I started with software engineering. Then I did a little bit of UX design. And then that was a time when, as Bindu was saying, analytics got its own, space in the industry. What used to be, like an MIS department in any company started slowly morphing into all these global centers, and, data started having its own focus, right? So that's the time when I was lucky to get into this. And I think it's been a fantastic journey for me, because in this space, you can learn so much, not just about your field, but also so many industries. So I started with CPG and retail, and then moved on to high-tech manufacturing. My roles, I've worked on multiple different functions within these industries. So I started with marketing, and that's all about, the campaign management, campaign design, demand generation. I moved on to sales strategy, which is everything from how do you plan your sales force? How do you optimize your sales force allocation for revenue? How do you ensure compensation plans for sales are, set up in an optimal way, balanced against your margin goals and things like that. And then I had a longer stint in a pretty complex piece of a business process, which is the whole quote to cash cycle, where, right from how you configure your orders and what a customer needs, all the way to ensuring delivery and post-delivery satisfaction services. I spent the longest time, and that's extremely rich data. Then I moved to supply chain, which was a logical next step. So that's when you start understanding beyond your organization, what else, what are your dependencies on your, in this hardware industry that I've been, on the suppliers, on the partners that you work with, on your, manufacturing centers. So a lot of data, that I got the, good fortune to work with my teams. And as a part of this, as I grew as well in my career, it moved from, the algorithmic efforts to the analysis to actually setting up data platforms. So today my role is again very challenging because we are moving from, as I said, a lot of the traditional systems, that data estate that has existed, trying to transform a domain into what it should be on the cloud, right? As from a business standpoint, as well as from the data estate. So it's a very, very challenging, charter we have today. And I think that's what I thrive on. There's something you learn every day from a technology perspective, from a business perspective. And then I also lead teams. So it's something I love, trying to understand what makes people tick in this space. How do we empower them to grow, right, as they embrace this as a career as well. So yeah, I would say that that's my personal journey. I absolutely love my job. I love my everything that I get to learn every day. And I think, yeah, analytics is definitely the place to be for everyone, regardless of what your background is, whether it's you're more a business kind of a person, you are a functional expert or a technical expert. There's a spot for everybody in this domain.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Thank you for that. No, it is good, transitioning from an on-prem to cloud. It itself is a good journey, and data grows every day. Data changes every day. Absolutely. And the sources, you get multiple sources added. So yeah, it will be an exciting journey, learning every day. So not the same work will work every day, yes. Right? So every day there will be a lot of challenges. Yeah. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the next question I'm just going to ask Bindu. So what should the students focus to be successful in their career? So what should be the technology that they should be focusing right now to get a better job, in the analytics field?
So analytics, like we were telling, it's pretty broad, but I can talk about my area, which is data science. Mm-hmm. So if you're aspiring for a career in data science, and if you're a beginner, if you're just going to graduate out of your college, it would be good for you to have a strong grounding in Python. I know that's taught in +2, especially in the CBSE syllabus. But try to learn the ML side of Python. And Python is basically, it's a scripting language. It is not, it was never designed for statistical analysis like an R or a SAS. So it's a scripting language, but the reason why it is preferred by every vendor or every company is because it is open source. So try to understand the ML side of Python, learn some simple algorithms like regression or clustering, which is not so very hard for you to learn. And also try to get a feel of how you can use Python to do data cleaning and exploratory data analysis, because that will give you a little bit of flavor of the math and the statistics that we were talked about. And that is something that your interviewer will be impressed if you know that, rather than just being a Python coder. And it will help you crack that first interview of yours soon after graduation. So yeah, that's what I think today.
Thank you, Bindu. Thank you for that. Definitely, yes, Python is the place where anybody has to start, because anything that they're going to proceed after that, be it Spark or any big data technology, is based out of Python and Java. So any programming language, I think, should be the base for anybody to start their career. Okay, so I think I'm in the last question now. So what are some of the myths and facts that exist in the analytics world? So it could be related to the certification or related to the algorithm itself. So what is really required? What is something that we need not worry about when it comes to analytics when somebody says, right? So maybe if you have something, you can just explain about that. So Richard, do you want to start?
Yeah. I would start by saying that once you are in analytics or you're looking for this field, one thing is important. It's not just about landing into analytics. It's a field that is continuously evolving. Now, because it is continuously evolving, we as a practitioner also need to evolve. So we have to kind of promise that to our job that we'll keep on upskilling ourselves when we are in analytics. It started with, like Bindu mentioned, Python. Now, because we are scaling solution, I have felt a bottleneck with Python. Now we are moving to PySpark, and Meenakshi would be knowing it, right? We have moved to PySpark because Python was not able to handle the amount of data. So the team had to learn Spark. Team had to know big data. They had to know how to do parallel computing. So we have to have this, in ourselves, that we'll continuously learn. Even if now I am, like Meenakshi said, I'm also leading a team. I am handling a vertical where we are continuously looking at what problems to solve. Now, I cannot solve a problem if I don't know the business. So even when I am managing at a business, or you're managing a program, there also, if you're not learning technology, you need to learn the business, the processes that goes into it, what problems we can solve, what techniques can you apply, how you can merge 2 or 3 things together to give an ROI for your client or your internal stakeholders. I would start by this, and then learning or certification is case to case. If someone is already in some way associated with analytics as a consumer or a creator, you really don't need a certification. You just learn, upskill on the job or by formal training. But if you're entering into this field, start by learning yourself and then translate into a certification so that your employability increases.
Thank you, Richa. Meenakshi, maybe your perspective.
Yeah, I think Bindu and Richa covered quite a few good scenarios. One thing I want to add is, especially as anyone who is, in early stage career in analytics, one of the things that people get very excited about is the technique, right? Or the tool. Very often that's going to change depending on which organization you finally join. So you shouldn't be focused on, if I just take one example of big data, don't worry about, are you a perfectionist in AWS and in Azure and in GCP and in Hadoop? You don't need to do that. You need to understand what your organization is invested in, because that is something that will drive how you will contribute, right? Because, every organization chooses a certain technology landscape based on their own business scenario. So that is one thing. Don't be focused on any specific tool set or platform, because it will change depending on where you join. And whichever organization you choose to join will ensure you get trained on the job, right? So that is one thing. But should anyone understand the principles? Absolutely, right? You should know the basic process as a technical person on what is a data lake, how do you get data into it, how do you transform it, what is the right way to model it, how to visualize. That's a end-to-end process you need to understand as a person in the analytics space, okay? The second thing I would say is, Richa covered it about understanding business. Although we say, that the data engineer's job is to perfect the algorithm, or the ML person's job is to, perfect that as well. It is, Bindu also, often says this, don't use an AK-47 to, try for, to manage an ant problem, right? So it's, that is something you need to have perspective, where do I really need to apply every single thing that I learned, the most complex thing I learned, to solve this particular problem, right? And that is where a very strong understanding of business is really important. Understanding your, whoever you're building it for in your organization, the stakeholder, that is fundamental, right? Everything will fail if your solution is not accepted by your user. So you can build, the most fancy thing, all the lights are glowing, everything is in beautiful colors. You can do all of that, but it doesn't answer the core business problem. It's not going to get acceptance, right? And that is where you will start feeling a sense of failure. So to avoid that, the best thing to do is start with, what is your organization invested in? What is that business strategy? What are you trying to solve? Ensure that the work you do is aligned to those objectives, right? And keep asking those questions. Any level, you can be a fresher, you can be 10 years, you can be 20 years in an organization. You have to keep getting aligned to your organization, your function strategy, your objectives. Then you know that whatever you're working on is going to provide value to the business. So if you get that right, the myth is that I need to know every technology, or I need to get, perfect my technical expertise. No, you need to always focus on what's the business problem I am trying to solve. And that is what will give you success, no matter what career option you take within analytics.
Oh, that was great, Meenakshi. I was impressed. Yeah, because I see a lot of people telling me how should I start with my AWS journey, because I focus on AWS. But personally, myself, right, if I get an opportunity to work in any of the cloud providers, I would do that. But I'm titled with AWS, so I just do it. But yeah, tools and technology are helpers, and they're not the core. So maybe getting your basics right is what is going to help anybody. Yeah. So get your programming strengths. Python, Java, OOPS concept is what is going to help us long way. Thank you for that, Meenakshi. Thank you. And Bindu, maybe we'll hear from you. And yeah.
Yeah. So myth. Machine learns by itself. That's a myth. A lot of people. Machine learns by itself.
Yeah.
Reality, no. It's just a piece of code which you have to write.
Correct.
The learning, whatever you think, it's just an iterative algorithm with a feedback loop which says if then yes kind of thing. If there is a correction needed, it goes back, does the adjustment, comes back. That is all the learning it does. It's not an intelligent thing. It's a code that you have to write. So you are the person who has to learn. The algorithm does not learn by itself. That's the biggest myth I have seen in data science, which people have misunderstood. So I will take another half an hour for me to explain it fully. So I just leave it at that.
Cannot agree more. Cannot agree more.
Yeah, that is very good one. Because everywhere we see this, right? So it learns by itself, but it doesn't learn by itself. So we have to do something to make it learn. Thank you so much, Bindu. Yeah, I think that's what I had on my list. Is there any question from anybody from audience? Any question you want to ask? We have experts here, so if there are any questions.
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so as Bindu asked that there are, about data science and operations research. Okay, so we can see that in the recent market, there are a lot of data science jobs, right? But comparative to that, there are not so much operations research jobs. This is less. So why this is happening? Because data science is prediction, and after that the prescriptive is coming from operations research, right? So after the last stage always needs the OR. So why this gap is, why there is the gap?
I can answer that. We will have to go a little back in history.
Yeah.
And operations research is essentially a specialization of mechanical engineers. So typically it's a mechanical engineer who will most probably do an MS in industrial engineering and then do their PhD in operations research. That used to be the stream. And a lot of companies like UPS, lot of airlines companies in the US, McD, they all have operations research department inbuilt. And this I'm talking about 10, 15 years back, like when you had not even heard this word called machine learning. Operations research was what was the rule of the day. And you are right, it's actually after prediction, the next level is optimization. That's how the world was working. And machine learning, as you would know, is actually a field of computer science engineering. It's fundamentally the same as a statistical modeler, but the reason why it became so powerful somewhere in the mid 2000s is when big data came into the picture. It gave you the power of a computing, which was a little difficult on the other side, which is why the word statistics itself, it means measurement of a sample. If you do the same thing for population, it's called parameter. So statistics is nothing but measurement you've taken from a sample. Sample was needed because we didn't have that much of computing power. But with big data, there was no need for sampling anymore. And hence the world shifted from mathematicians and statisticians and operations research engineers to computer science engineers. So when I started my career, I used to hire mechanical engineers. Now I don't, I hire mostly computer science engineers. So this shift has happened in the world.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that transition, operations research got lost, I would say, or it just got ignored. The fact is, the field of machine learning is still not mature. It cannot handle many of the typical OR problems. You still need very dedicated softwares which can handle OR problems. But in this market bus of AI and ML, it's just got submerged. But trust me, I strongly believe it's just a passing phase. It will come back.
I'd like to add, to what Bindu said. I think, in light of all this, what is in, that is where job descriptions have started losing sight of the value of OR, right? So you will realize, especially now, post-COVID, with some of the biggest problems any industry faces is their supply chain, right? And that is something where OR is a very mature field for years. It's not just now, right? So you will see that when you look at job descriptions today, they will ask for data science, they will ask for data analytics and all these things. But the reality is the role needs to solve OR problems. Okay,
that's true.
So that is where you need to, if for anyone who's applying for such a role, take the time in an interview to understand what that role has to do. And you will start uncovering the layers of OR that are actually needed, not really ML or AI or any of the core data science principles that we are talking about over here. So I would say it's very much there, sort of got wrapped under, but it is the need of the hour in any industry because of everything that has happened through the whole pandemic as well, where so much is required to be transformed in supply chain.
I started hiring pure OR the last
Same here. Same here.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Hope that answered, Anusya.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. With this, we are wrapping up this discussion. So we went over by 30 minutes. Thank you so much, Richa, Meenakshi, and Bindu. Sorry for extending this. And thank you, everyone, for staying late and just listening to all our question, answers, and expertise. I'm sure there are a lot of key takeaways for all of us. Thanks again, and thanks everyone for your time. Over to you, Anusya.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sridevi. Fantastic, guys. What a wonderful session indeed. So again, I just want to say good evening, everyone, to the one and all present here and all the participants. It is such an honor for me to get the opportunity to thank you all participants, dignitaries. On behalf of Women in Big Data Forum, I extend a warm welcome to the people in the gathering. I would like to express my gratitude to all esteemed delegates of the session for their presence and contribution to make it a great success. Now, I have to say that thank you for inspiring and encouraging us with your words on this special day. A special thanks to Samiksha, Sridevi, and Ekta for providing immense support to make the launch successful. I extend my gratitude to Anjana to assist us thoroughly. I thank all our WIBD members, Meenakshi, Bindu, Richa, Soumya, and Jasdeep for supporting us with this initiative. Above all, I'm thankful to Women in Big Data Group to give us the opportunity to arrange it amidst this pandemic. I must thank the organizing team, volunteers for working hard for the past few days to make it successful. Thank you everyone once again for making it a great success.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Need a group picture, please.
Yeah,
Please.
sure. Who is taking?
Let me give it a minute for people to switch on. Sorry, few seconds, not a minute, for a few seconds for people to switch on the camera, please.
Yeah, everyone.
And then let us
Anusuya,
know who
I
is
did not
taking the picture.
I did not talk, but don't miss me in a group picture.
We can
Nobody
see
can
you,
miss you,
Miss
Ekta, don't
Mehul.
worry.
We cannot, we cannot.
How can we miss Ekta Mehul? Iron lady from Gujarat, yes. And Jasdeep, so nice to see you. Yes.
Hi.
Participants, please do, whoever wants to switch on their, camera, just give it a few seconds and then we take the screenshot.
Tell us when you're taking the screenshot. It's difficult to keep smiling.
Just smiling.
Fair thing.
Okay, I'm saying 3, 2, 1, and then we'll do 3, 2, 1, go. Thank you so much.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Everybody.
Thank you,
luck.
everyone.
Thank
Lovely
you.
session.
Yeah.
Very, very engrossed and beautiful. Lovely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All the
Thank
best.
you.
Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.